Have you ever wondered what truly exists beyond the physical world? Have you ever felt like your soul is searching for something more, as if life has invisible layers you haven't fully understood yet? In this video, you're going to discover the levels of the spiritual plane, the path consciousness takes beyond matter, and how this directly influences your life, your challenges, and your evolution. This is the #1 video to clearly and deeply understand how the different spiritual levels work, from the densest to the most elevated. If you feel stuck, lost, disconnected, or searching for purpose, understanding these levels could transform your spiritual and emotional journey. You'll understand where you are right now, where you can go, and what you need to do to grow spiritually. Want to know why certain patterns keep repeating in your life? Why you sometimes feel disconnected even when you're doing everything right? Then stay with me until the end, because this video could be the turning point for your consciousness. Few people know this, but the spiritual realm is as organized as, or even more than, the physical world. It is structured in spiritual levels that function like vibrational floors. The lighter the consciousness, the higher it can access. At the densest level we find the umbral, a kind of gray zone where unresolved human emotions still manifest. Ever heard of someone who died and got stuck? Well, that often happens because they're still vibrating at that frequency. Just above that is the penumbral plane, where more organized astral cities can be found, such as the well-known Nosolar, our home. These regions are like large spiritual rehabilitation centers, with hospitals, schools, and even forms of government. It's a transitional plane for those who have begun the process of awakening but still need emotional and ethical adjustments. Think of it as a soul clinic, where the spirit starts to understand its own responsibility in spiritual evolution. Now, in the planes of light, everything changes in tone, quite literally. The vibration is so high that there's no room for egos or conflict. These realms are inhabited by more awakened consciousnesses, who act as mentors or guides. Even higher are the ascended planes, home to spirits who no longer reincarnate. They operate on frequencies that even the most experienced mediums rarely access. And at the very top of this chain is the command plane, a core of advanced spiritual coordination, almost always invisible to those limited to the lower dimensions. But that's only where the story begins. It may sound like science fiction, but it's real. The Earth Project was designed by extraterrestrial intelligences from extremely high spiritual levels. These beings don't have humanoid appearances like in the movies. Instead, they exist as forms of light, energy, and consciousness. They not only created the structure of the planet, but also the human body itself. Yes, the physical body is a highly advanced spiritual technology, designed to allow souls to experience dense realities and accelerate their spiritual evolution. These advanced consciousnesses operate from the command plane, coordinating planetary missions like ours. And as strange as it may seem, many of us have already had contact with these beings, whether through lucid dreams, astral projections, or moments of deep intuition. The revealed spirituality is increasingly showing us that extraterrestrials are part of the vast ecosystem of the spiritual world, not just visitors. They've been here from the beginning. And why does this matter to you? Because understanding the origins of our spiritual system is part of awakening consciousness. When you realize that nothing here is random, not your pain, not your family, not even your limitations, you begin to live with greater clarity. Want an exercise? Before going to sleep, ask mentally, what is my true spiritual origin? Then pay attention to the signs in the following days. The spiritual plane responds, just not always in the way we expect. And when it comes to time, that's when things get even more intriguing. In the spiritual plane, time as we know it simply doesn't exist. There are no ticking minutes or beeping clocks. What defines time in the spiritual realms is the vibration of consciousness and the geometry of light. Fascinating, right? In astral cities, for example, There's still day and night, but not because of Earth's rotation. Instead, it's due to how sunlight interacts with subtle dimensions, reflecting energetic realities that rotate along with the planet. Want to see how this affects you? Have you ever had a dream that felt like it lasted for hours, but only 5 minutes had passed when you woke up? That's because in the spiritual world, time is fluid, shaped by experience and intention. That's why in higher planes, major decisions and deep healing can happen instantly, while in the umbral, time can feel heavy and endless, like the days never move forward. Time adapts to consciousness, not the other way around. This flexibility of time also explains why some disincarnated souls remain stuck for years, while others evolve quickly. It's not about luck, it's about vibrational frequency. And that ties into something even more surprising: how those astral cities are built, with structures almost identical to those on Earth, but made of quantum matter. Yes, houses, schools, forests, all of that exists in the spiritual world, and you're about to understand why. The biggest surprise for those who awaken consciousness during an astral projection is discovering that the spiritual planes are not made of clouds or eternal mist, as many imagine. They have structure, color, texture, even climate. In astral cities, there are trees that breathe light, animals that live in harmony with humans, homes with advanced geometric design, and even technologies similar to those we use here. But all built from subtler matter, like a dense, interactive hologram. It's as if the spiritual world were a refined, parallel version of Earth, adapted to the needs of each group of souls. There are hospitals where newly disincarnated spirits recover, schools where they learn about their spiritual evolution, cultural centers, and even means of transportation. It's not an exaggeration. Many accounts from mediums and conscious projectors describe floating subways, suspended gardens, and healing centers where music is the main form of treatment. Sounds like science fiction, but it's revealed spirituality. These cities aren't fixed. They shift and evolve according to the collective consciousness that inhabits them. That's why two people can visit the same plane and see entirely different structures, depending on what they're ready to perceive. And here's something interesting. The higher the vibration of a spiritual community, the more translucent and geometric the architecture becomes. But accessing these places isn't simple, and there's a specific reason for that, tied to the spiritual bodies and their limitations. The spiritual body is like a vibrational suit that the soul wears to move between spiritual levels. But here's the secret few people talk about. It has limits. Yes, no matter how awakened a consciousness may be, if its astral body isn't refined enough, it simply can't access higher planes. It's like trying to enter a VIP event with a regular ticket. You can't force your way in, the system just won't allow it. That's where advanced spiritual technology comes in, often operated by extraterrestrial consciousnesses. There are vibrational reprogramming chambers that help souls transition between planes. Sounds like something out of Star Wars, but deep accounts describe machines that tune the soul's frequency, remove dense blockages, and expand the subtle body. In some astral colonies, this is as common as a physical therapy session here on Earth. And the most curious part? Many of these treatments are offered while you sleep. That's why working on your spirituality here in the physical plane is essential. The more you care for your energy, through meditation, uplifting readings like Spiritual Journey by Waldo Vieira, conscious fasting, or acts of compassion, the more refined your spiritual body becomes. And with that, you gain access to higher levels of the spiritual world without needing interventions. Unfortunately, many mediums and spiritual guides are unaware of these details and end up limiting what they share. One of the biggest surprises for those who begin exploring the spiritual levels more deeply is realizing that many mediums, and even disincarnated spirits, are only familiar with the lower layers of the spiritual plane. Sounds strange, right? But it's true. Most mediumistic messages come from the umbral or the penumbral plane, regions closer to Earth, where the density still limits a broader view of spiritual reality. These guides, though well-intentioned, often repeat limited patterns of information because they're still bound to the frequency of those planes. It's like trying to explain the ocean by looking at a puddle. It's not bad faith, it's vibrational limitation. Have you ever heard a medium describe the ascended planes in detail? Probably not. That's because accessing those regions requires a level of consciousness that surpasses the common filters of traditional mediumship. That's why it's important to seek sources that expand, not just comfort. Reading authors like Ramatis or Herminio C. Miranda and exploring bolder studies on revealed spirituality can help break through the veil. And of course, the awakening of personal consciousness is the main portal to higher understanding. After all, how can we blindly trust guides who never went beyond the arrival zones? But there are those who coordinate this entire system. From far above, the Ashtar Command is often misunderstood. Many people think it's a single being of light with long hair and a golden sword. Thanks, pop culture. But in truth, the Ashtar Command is an organizational concept, a network of highly advanced galactic consciousnesses that have been coordinating the Earth project from the most subtle levels of the spiritual realm. They're not here to save humanity, but to ensure the plan unfolds with balance. Think of it as a kind of cosmic UN, but operating with an extremely high degree of consciousness, unconditional love, and interdimensional technology. They don't intervene randomly, nor do they appear just anywhere. The presence of the Command of Light is subtle, strategic, and precise. Sometimes their interventions come through ideas that arise in scientists, healers, or teachers who have no idea they're being inspired. This is a high-level form of action. No spectacle, no ego, just pure consciousness. And don't be fooled. Many people who claim to be in direct contact with the Ashtar Command are merely channeling mid-level spiritual planes. True contact with these consciousnesses requires preparation, ethics, inner silence, and responsibility. It's not an open channel, it's refined tuning. And understanding this changes everything, because it helps us realize that human souls, well, they haven't even begun their journey here. This idea might shake some people, but it's time to face it. No soul is originally from Earth. That's right. All the consciousnesses currently inhabiting human bodies were brought here from other worlds, from systems and dimensions with entirely different vibrational structures. Earth is a field of experience, a kind of intensive soul school. And like any school, it was built based on a highly organized plan, including its spiritual infrastructure. These souls were placed here according to their evolutionary needs. Some came from planets with more advanced emotional technology, others from worlds still undergoing ethical collapse. This helps explain why some people seem to have innate wisdom, while others remain trapped in dense, repetitive cycles. We're all at different stages of the same process, spiritual evolution toward higher vibrational levels. Knowing this changes everything. When you understand that you're here temporarily, to live a planned experience in a dense and challenging spiritual world, your entire perception shifts. You stop asking, "Why me?" and begin to ask, "What for?" And that kind of question opens portals of understanding, including how to integrate your spirituality with technical and scientific knowledge. And at that point, my friend, you begin to move at a different frequency. For a long time, we were led to believe that science and spirituality were opposites, like oil and water. But when you study the spiritual planes with depth and seriousness, you begin to see that the laws governing the spiritual realm are just as logical as the laws of physics. And that's where the work of minds like the presenter of this video comes in. Someone who combines a solid scientific background with a broad spiritual vision, bringing forth a revealed and liberating spirituality. After all, If the human body is a technology designed for spiritual evolution, why not study it as such? And if the spiritual plane is made of subtle quantum matter, shouldn't we use physics to better understand it? This kind of reasoning opens doors and breaks down walls. Books like The Self-Aware Universe by Amit Goswami and The Turning Point by Fritjof Capra are examples of how science has slowly begun to extend a hand to spirituality. And you know what's most beautiful about all this? It's realizing that understanding spirituality doesn't require abandoning reason. On the contrary, it requires expanding it. When you see that science is only beginning to touch what the spiritual plane has been revealing for millennia, you feel inspired to learn more. And at that point, you realize that this entire journey, which began in the umbral, in the density, has a far greater destination than it first seemed. You thought they had already told you everything about the spiritual world. But the truth is, much of it has always been hidden or distorted. This wasn't just another video about spirituality. It served as a true map, revealing what few have ever had the courage to explain about the spiritual levels. And if at any point in your life you felt something invisible calling you, something that didn't quite fit into conventional explanations, then this content arrived at exactly the right moment. Throughout the video, you began to understand why certain patterns kept repeating, even when you did everything to change them. You discovered why some people seemed to evolve spiritually, while others remained stuck in pain, fear, and endless cycles. Everything became clearer once you understood how the spiritual plane is structured, how its levels work, and how they directly influence your decisions, your blocks, and even your deepest emotions. This was the moment you began to see the awakening of consciousness through new eyes. Something inside you shifted. Because after everything that was revealed here, going back to your old way of thinking, simply stopped being an option. Now that you've accessed this knowledge about the spiritual levels, the question is, what will you do with it? Will you let these truths fall asleep again? Or will you start applying, exploring, feeling, and seeking? Because knowing that there is a spiritual plane so structured, with cities, hierarchies, commands, and even technology, completely changes how you see life here and now. Are you living in alignment with your spiritual origin? Are you investing your energy in the right people, habits, and thoughts? Because spiritual evolution doesn't happen on autopilot, it requires action. So, how about starting now? Pick up a book, meditate on everything you've heard here, talk to someone who's also seeking to grow. But above all, feel within you the call to rise to a higher level. If this video made sense to you, if it stirred something or opened up a new awareness, then subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who also deserves to step out of the illusion. There's still much more revealed spirituality to come, and I want to walk this path with you.